Hey, welcome back everyone. All right, in this video, we're gonna go ahead and get drawing. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this vegetation base. This dense forest, I'm gonna go ahead and click the select tool and just erase all of these marks. We can go ahead and add dense forest later. Now I'm gonna go ahead and select these base layers and I'm gonna create a new layer. This new layer, I personally just like creating a new layer for each type of color. It can all literally be on the same layer. You can have one vegetation layer and one dark grass layer. It helps me keep things separated and edit them by using different layers. However, it is not super important what you do. As long as the base layers and the vegetation layers are separate, you are going to be a-okay. So for the road layer, I'm going to go ahead and select the road color. That's going to be dark asphalt, which is used for main roads. I'm going to pick 100, 100, 100. Again, I found this color, right, by using the one-stop tile shop. Here it is, 100, 100, 100. You can also open, like I mentioned, the tile program, and then using the BMP tools, the bump tools, that gives you the colors next to it. I'm going to pick my pencil tool here, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Now, the one thing I want to point out to you is these rulers up here. This is telling you the number of pixels. Now, I do want to point out I love using this pixel brush because it allows me, if I zoom in, it allows me to draw a perfect square, except it is only in odd numbers. If I select the size 2, it is still a 3x3 square. But when I do a size 1, this is a exact 1x1 pixel square, which means that this is going to be one space where your character can stand on. Since I'm drawing a road, a quick reference is that cars are 3x4 squares. So keep that in mind when you make your roads. If you make a road that is exactly 3 tiles, the car will effectively barely fit in this road. It'll feel like a very tight road for the player. Even just adding a 4th will allow the player to drive in the middle, in between these 4, and feel a little more comfortable by having some room on the outside. If you want to, create a road that it's kind of like supposed to be a 2-way or whatever, you can make it 6, or any division of 3, but not really. It doesn't have to be stuck to 3. Just know that if you make a road of 1, a car will not fit there. At minimum, it should be 3. Cool. With that in mind, let's go ahead and draw a road. I'm going to go ahead and make my brush size 7. That's a 7x7. And I'm going to use this ruler up here to see where I'm drawing. For example, if I look at the vanilla map and I see that between the tiles of 11 and 16, and I can go ahead and go down to 1x1. If on this bottom here, it's going to tell me the coordinates of the tile I have selected. So this is 11, 0, because that is, the 11th pixel and the 0th pixel. And then over here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to make a road that's 6 wide. And this is 16, 0. So if in vanilla, let's say I'm trying to put this on top of a vanilla map, and I see that the tile up here in vanilla has a road that is going from 11 to 16 on the x-axis, then I can go ahead and place this road on 11 to 16. If I got it off by 1 or 2, I can simply click the select tool, select the road, cut, paste, and use my arrow keys to move it around. That way it matches up with what I know vanilla has. That way your map can be seamless between the tiles on the outside. Cool. With that being said, I can go ahead and use the select tool as well to go ahead and grab an area. Down here, you can see it says rectangle. That's going to give me like the size of the rectangle that I am holding on to. Here it's going to be 7x306. So that means that I have a road of 7, but I want a road of 6. If I zoom into my first example, I can see, it had it was 1 pixel over to this side. So now this is going to be a road that is 6 wide. I can use my fill tool to basically fill this road in. And now I have one giant road that goes across the whole map. A good rule of thumb that I've noticed when creating, or rather using other people's map mods, something that I've noticed is that it is very hard to connect into other people's map mods or continue expanding vanilla map when other people have those. That's because they don't build a lot of roads that lead off the map, right? Leaving it open for someone else to build off of your map. A lot of times people will basically connect to vanilla and to nothing else. This kind of limits the way that we can build off of each other's maps. So just a good rule of thumb is to leave some open roads so that other players can be like, hey, your map is used a lot, and I see that there's connections here and maybe down here. And then they're going to build their maps over here, continuing those roads. So it helps other map modders basically work with your stuff. So just be aware that that is something very fun and very useful that you can do, is just creating some extra roads that lead outside of your map. Cool. So here are some roads that I'm going to create. I'm going to go ahead and now grab some water. That's 0, 138, 255. 0, 138, 255. So that's the color for water. I'm going to choose a different brush. I like using this brush for water over here. It looks like this is called the acrylic 03 brush. I'm going to choose my pencil tool, and it looks like it's this big. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. Oh, that's a layer group. Control Z, a new layer. I'm going to call this water. And then I'm going to go ahead and basically make sure that it is selected and paint my water. Now, this is going all over my roads. That's no fun. But if I simply move the road on top of the water, then it doesn't matter if my water is a little funky and going through the roads. Oh, I have the road layer selected. Basically, my water can now belong under the roads, and the roads are a de facto bridge. This brush also makes this water look cool and normal and natural, as opposed to, just one flat straight line, which in my opinion gives it a little bit of realism. Cool. With that being said, let's just leave it simple for here. This is what I'm going to create. For you, please feel free to go as crazy with these colors, roads, waters, sand, whatever. Go as crazy as you want. I would even recommend to get closer to vanilla to have all 3 types of grass, and you can put them all around the map using these kinds of tools to mess around. For the sake of, simplicity and shortness, I'm going to go ahead and call this my map. This is effectively the base layer for my map. In the next video, I'm going to go ahead and add some vegetation. Nah, I'm not going to do it in the next video. Let's do it in this video. So now I'm going to select this dense forest here. And as you recall, the dense forest color is 255, 0, 0, which is just the color red. So now anytime I paint the dense forest over here, that's going to be trees. Now, something to note about this dense forest color. I'll bring this over. This is where I'm getting my colors. Dense forest, this one, that will put trees literally on top of anything. If you paint this color on top of roads or on top of water, when you load this up and we do our bump to TMX, the trees will be on top of roads and on top of waters. Because dense forest specifically, it paints trees on anything. So be careful with this one. For the most part, I could be wrong, but for the most part, all the other ones, right, none is black, but all the other ones here, when you paint over roads and when you paint over water, it will not paint trees and grass, fir trees, etc. It will not paint any of this over water or roads. So dense forest, be careful. Everything else, you can just go crazy and paint it all over the place to get, a funky kind of realism. So with that being said, I am using this red tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the size here. It's 211 pixels. This is measurement is in pixels. I'm going to make it smaller. Just kind of guesstimated 78. And then I'm going to paint. Now, the thing is, anytime that I paint with this, sometimes it kind of changes and wiggles it a little. If you wanted to wiggle more, you can apply jitter. The more jitter that you do, it'll basically make this jump around and move around so that you can have a more like, the forest doesn't look like it's the same shape over and over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically start painting this red all over the place over here. I'm going to build my buildings over here, and then I'm just going to make sure that the rest of it has some trees, right? That way the player can get this feeling of being in the middle of a foresty area with some water. I'm going to go ahead and add this here. Now, I am doing this very fast and loose because I wanted to kind of explain to you and show you, because I'm going to miss some spots on purpose, that some of this is going over water and some of this is going over roads. If I do this, when I do bump to TMX, there's going to be literal trees in the road. That's no good. So I'm going to go to my eraser tool. And what we can do is one of these two things. We can use this eraser tool to kind of get rid of some of these edges to give it a more, again, realistic, quote unquote, look to the edges of these forests, so to speak, like so. You can also effectively choose a different brush, like this pixel brush, and make the pixel brush just slightly larger. Let's go ahead and zoom in over here. Hold Control and scroll forward to basically erase the red that's on the road. So even if it's very close to the edge of the road, it's going to go ahead and be able to do it, erase it. Now, the only thing to note is that this is going to be a flat line of trees. So be aware when you use these kinds of things that it's going to go ahead and create some flat lines. So it's like a double-edged sword. And now, if I'm not sure if there's water underneath, I can always unsee the layer to be like, oh, there's water here. You know, and then here, there's water over here. I'm going to clear some of this stuff. Water, water, water. Is there any more water? Oh, yeah. All of this is water. Because basically, it's not going to look great when there's trees over water. I'll show that later. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that up. Looks like here's some trees on the road. Let's clear that up. I'm going to hit Control S. Notice here the little asterisk. Control S. That has been saved. And we're going to leave that as such. You can use any of the other colors for your vegetation layer. Similar with the base layer, I would create a new layer for any single different type of vegetation color to have more control. If you put all of your colors on one, that is okay. It's not bad. It's just will make it harder to edit. With that being said, I'm ready to basically export these because, again, this is just an example. So in order to export the vegetation layer, I'm going to make sure that the background is black. Even if every single color, it looks like fills every single pixel, on your map, make sure that the black is visible, because if one single pixel is some non-black color or non-specific vegetation layer color, it's going to effectively throw some errors. So to avoid that, just make sure the background is black. Control-Shift-E to export the PNG. Make sure, because this is the vegetation layer, you can override it. If you don't want to override it, just give it a different name, right? Stripesville, something else. But just be sure that both the PNG and the VEG match. Because I'm not going to change my naming convention, I'm just going to go ahead and export. Yes, I'm going to replace this. Again, leave everything default and hit export. To get the next one, I'm going to unsee the vegetation layer, hit Control-Shift-E to export. And this is going to be Stripesville PNG. Export, replace, export. All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. And now when I go back on to my images, this Stripesville PNG, I'm going to go ahead and click and drag. Now this looks the same. That's weird. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to trust it. I'm going to hit bump to TMX, hit OK. And now it's telling me, look, we already found Stripesville 00 inside of this folder, so it's going to be overwritten. That's fine with me. I'm going to hit OK. It basically went and generated the TMX files and finished. It then also already replaced the new TMX file. I'm going to double click it. And even though the PNG image, right, when I dragged and dropped it, it didn't look the same. It didn't look like what we had drawn. Right, here we are. You can see here are my roads. Here's the water. And then this is what I wanted to show you. Because I started putting that red over this water here, it looks like there are trees growing out of the water. Again, I just wanted to use this for illustration. I don't actually like how this looks like, and I would be a lot more careful, me personally, on how I draw trees. If you have trees in the middle of the road, again, that will not look great. So just wanted to let you know. Now, if you're going for a feel and you like trees on the water, again, it's your creativity. Don't let what my opinions are override what you feel. If you feel like you want trees on the water, by all means, that's the way to do it. All right, well, with this, we're going to go ahead and have this map here done. And what I forgot to do is save this in the folder structure video. So let's go ahead and save this. As I mentioned when we first created the folder structure, I'm going to go to the world editor here, inside of Project Zomboid Tools, Stripesville, and on this top layer, this is where I'm going to go ahead and save. This is going to be a PZW file. That's for Project Zomboid World Editor. We're going to go ahead and name this Stripesville. This naming convention does not mean anything. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it Stripesville because that I like the consistency of calling my files the same map name. So, great. Cool. That's basically it. So once we have this, we effectively have our base layer and we have our vegetation layer. Everything has now been input into the world editor. So we are actually ready to move to the next step, which is creating the zombie spawn map image. Great. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and get that started. And again, at any point, these maps can be edited and then re-added into the bump.tmx file. The one thing that I want to point out is that if you change any tiles here, like if you open this inside of the tile editor program, change tiles manually, anytime that you come back here and you want to do bump.tmx, it will override all manual changes that you've made with any changes that you have in this PNG. That has caused me heartache because whenever I've drawn the tiles inside of the tile editor, and then it feels tedious because my maps keep getting bigger and bigger, it's very painful to then come back to GIMP and then try to recreate those manual changes. I always recommend coming back to GIMP and making as many changes with these colors as possible so that you have a base image you can always fall back to. And so that way, if anything happens, this is going to be kind of like your backup, your base, something that you can rely on. And because you can see it from an overview from the top down, because there are limits to how far you can zoom out in the world editor program, this also allows you kind of have a more contextual view of how everything fits together. All right. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and end the video. And in the next video, we're going to go ahead and talk about the zombie spawn map image. All righty. See you in the next one.